All right, everyone, it is interview time. And today we are here with Alex, also known as GoAskAlex. And this is an interesting one because April and I are not side by side. And I'm already feeling withdrawals. I'm like, where's my chip? But I can see her on the screen.
Are you jealous of our background studio right now? Because it's so kick-ass.
Yeah, but my background has an Uberlube bottle on it.
Yeah, it does.
And there's some really pretty flowers. And also like my whole decor you picked out. So it's essentially
it's a little
house.
Crooked. One of those is a little crooked. I'm going to have to come over and fix it.
All right. I got to go. Podcast pause. Gonna go fix. Just kidding. For all of you listening, we think this will be on YouTube. We are starting to put most of our recordings on YouTube if you want to see the actual video of it. And this might be an interesting way to see the video. So I can't promise it will be on YouTube, but I think so. Alex is an awesome, wonderful human being here and has an incredible life story to share with you that includes working in the adult porn performer educator industry, as well as a personal life story. Did I ever say personal and professional life story, and continues to be a really important person in the field of being a performer and sex education. So you already heard a little bit in the bio about Alex, but Alex, can you please tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are today in the field of sexuality? And this can be both your personal world and your professional world, whatever it goes. And then we'll do tangents and all kinds of stories after that.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thank you for the lovely intro. You've really gassed me up. And now I'm definitely going to disappoint because I'm not all that. But I will tell you a little bit about, I guess, how I got to where I am now. So currently I'm an adult entertainer. I make porn. I have an OnlyFans. I sell videos, that kind of thing, take nudes. And I've actually been doing that sort of work for, I want to say about 8 years, 2014, which makes me feel really old when I put it like that. But I started by doing live webcam shows and exploring that part of the industry, being a webcam model. And then slowly over the years, I've progressed to a point where now I make videos, I take photos, and I engage one-on-one with fans online. So I've really done a lot of different types of sex work, basically everything except for stripping, because I can't dance at all. And everyone says it's not about your ability to dance, but like they haven't seen me try and dance. But I've basically done a little bit of everything. And honestly, I couldn't really imagine doing anything else at this point. Yeah, I just love it. I love what I do.
And we love what you do too. I'm learning more about you as well, which you are quite fascinating. And as Amy said, a badass in not only the film industry, but we want to talk about your journey in the adult film industry, as well as cam modeling, if you want, before, during, and after your surgery. You had a surgery, which we'd love to discuss with you. And now you're living with a disability. So can you fill our listeners in and also myself in about this journey?
Yeah. Well, I was diagnosed at the age of 10 with a type of inflammatory bowel disease. It's an autoimmune condition called ulcerative colitis. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's really similar to Crohn's disease. So it's a pretty aggressive disease that attacks your intestinal tract. Like for me, it was my colon specifically. And I was sick all the way back from early childhood and infancy. But around the age of 10 was when we sort of started to realize, oh, something is really not normal here. And then that was the beginning of many years in and out of the hospital and on all different kinds of really powerful medications, drugs that were really, really bad for my body. And obviously a lot of emotional and mental stress that came with that as well. So that was my whole life. That was before I did sex work. That for me, I've been sick for more of my life than I haven't been. So it's a pretty big part of my identity. But in 2019, it reached a point where I just couldn't live anymore with how sick I was. And the only course of action left was a major surgery called a total abdominal colectomy, which is fancy terminology to essentially mean that I was disemboweled surgically. And I now have a permanent medical device instead of a colon. So that's my life. It's been a pretty drastic change, which I'm sure you can imagine. My life kind of did a full 180, but somehow I found a way to make it work with sex work and in my life and with my lifestyle, and not only make it work, but also thrive.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Just how did this change or shift your sexuality? Because that's really incredible. Number one, that you're still able to perform. And please, I would love to hear more.
Yeah, well, I guess for me, probably as a lot of young people, young women, I experienced a lot of insecurity growing up and some issues with self-confidence. And regardless of whether or not you have a disability, I think that's something that everyone struggles with. But for me, I always had a lot of resentment towards my body, towards the way that I look, towards my illness. But when I went through this major transition, it was almost like I was able to let some of that go, because my body had worked so hard to keep me alive and try and make me healthy. And after everything that I went through in the hospital, it was just like, I couldn't resent my body anymore. I was just so grateful for what my body was doing behind the scenes when I wasn't aware of what it was doing at all. So there, I guess there's a level of gratitude and acceptance that came as a result of the surgery in a weird way. But also I'm really stubborn. So when the expectation is, oh, you're going to be insecure, you're not going to continue doing your work, I love nothing more than to prove people wrong. Like if someone says, no, I can't believe you're doing that. That's so gross. You shouldn't be getting naked with your body like that. That's the surefire way to get me naked more often and louder. So I guess part of why I do what I do is just spite.
Love
in
that.
a way. Yeah.
I think that, yeah. So it's like you got a little rebel in you that has learned, maybe the rebel's always been in there, but also it's like, yeah. So you tell me I can't do this thing. Oh, I can do this thing. And what a powerful journey to be on, to see the challenges as also like a blessing in a way, or also see the strengths that are on the other side or surrounding the challenges, right? Like there's this experience that you have gone through for many years and now your life is different than it was. But I mean, all of our lives are different, but yours is very different than it was or what you maybe imagined for yourself. And yet you're able to still see like, wow, my body is fucking powerful and amazing. So a question about, and this relates to sex in general, both in porn or in the performer world and sex with partners. How has this changed? Now you have a device in your body at all times. You've worked, we'll talk more about the body image stuff and how you work through that, because I think that'll be valuable for people to listen to. But how has that shifted? Because you went from so it sounds like you were already a performer before this surgery.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. What does that look like?
Well, I went through a really big breakup, I guess, just a few months before my surgery. So I kind of went through all of this suddenly on my own. And so there was a lot of fear associated with someone seeing me naked for the first time and what that would be like. And because there's no real sex education in the hospital when surrounding these kinds of surgery, there's nothing available, no one to coach you on this. I just felt like the best idea for me would be to take matters into my own hands. So I wanted to just go out there and have sex as soon as possible to just get it out of the way so I couldn't worry about it. So I texted someone who I was pretty sure wouldn't say no. I'd never slept with them before, but I thought, this person, from what I know of them, they probably won't say no if I ask them to have sex. And he didn't say no. Yeah, he was safe. I didn't feel like I was going to be rejected. And we hooked up. And of course, it wasn't particularly memorable sex, but I hope he doesn't hear this. Sorry.
Sorry.
It was
shameless
great.
Sex, though.
It was great for me. Yeah.
It was good.
It served a purpose for me because it was like I had gotten the first one out of the way and I didn't have to worry about it anymore. So for me, the solution was almost just putting myself out there as soon as possible. And same with the internet. I took a nude photo of myself and I put it on Twitter to my 25 or 30,000 followers. And I just said, this is what I look like now. I'm strong and I survived this surgery and here's my naked body. And the outpouring of love was just undescribable. So many people that I knew or that I didn't know, strangers, were giving me all this love and support, and really putting myself out there like that was a huge part of being able to be confident. And then in my personal relationships as well, just approaching it as when someone first met me, I'd say, hi, I'm Alex. You know, this is the disability that I have. I'd lay it out on the table so there was nothing to hide and there was no shame, because it's just such an important, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I would have to put it all out there. And that gave me almost no opportunity to be ashamed.
Mm-hmm. Touching on that for a second. So you also have this courageous sense of self, which I can see and bearing witness to, that it's admirable. And some folks might not be there yet. They might not know how to get there. And so if they have had maybe not the surgery, but they have something that with their own bodies that they're uncomfortable with, and I don't know, their sex can happen in so many ways, right? We don't know what exactly could be happening. What do you think could help move people forward? Is it just not giving a fuck and being like, here it is, and putting it all out there? Or do you think it's sort of doing a lot of self-love work and positive affirmations until you just kind of say, I'm me, this is me, I want to have pleasure too? Do you have any tips for folks out there? Because this is so important, and so many people are walking around with things, and I know they're not comfortable in their own bodies, and whether it's from surgeries or something that happened at birth. So I would love to hear from you what you think about that.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot. Lots of questions. So I'm going to try and.
Sorry. That's what I do.
No, you're great. I have ADHD. So I'm like, I will.
So does April.
Okay. Okay. I was like, yeah, I relate to what's going on here. So I'll start a sentence really strong in one direction, and then it weaves off, and then it kind of pitters out. And what was I even trying to say over here? I don't know. So just bear with me.
I just did that to you. So if you,
okay.
Yes, we can keep it focused.
Yeah. No, and now there's a squirrel over there somewhere, a squirrel. And then you're like, oh, a squirrel. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Joke with April. We're like, a squirrel.
But I'm like, okay, what was your question? Hold on. Let me get back there. Okay. So yeah, I think that, I mean, for me, from an early age, I've done lots and lots of therapy. I am mentally ill, physically ill. So I've done lots of therapy, lots of journaling. I've done lots of dialectical behavioral therapy specifically has been really helpful for me. And there's lots of great resources for that. Like on YouTube, Marsha Linehan has tons of videos that are super helpful. But, you know, aside from going to therapy, because that's not something that is accessible to everyone financially or otherwise, one of the things that at least that I see is that a lot of people think, you know, that they have to love themselves, and that's the achievement. That's what you're working towards. And that's, you know, that may be true, but it doesn't happen overnight. I think that for me, it was really important to focus on, rather than loving myself, because I couldn't fake love for myself where I didn't have it. It was focusing on just accepting myself. So yes, learning to love myself, but just accepting myself. One of my affirmations is I accept myself and I'm learning to love myself, because I think it is really a process, and there is no way to just love yourself overnight and just feel confident and just feel, you know, totally grounded in your body and proud and confident, like I said. So I think that focusing on just acceptance and just small milestones for me helped me to be really successful with that. If that sort of answers the question, I think I kind of maybe went in a different direction.
But no, you answered it. And also, if there's folks out there that you are vulnerable with, and I'm speaking you as the proverbial all of us, right? That doesn't accept you for who you are. They're rejecting you, or they're maybe saying something that isn't nice. I think that whole like kind of the double fuck you that you kind of said in the beginning, like, really, you don't think, I think that is another approach. Doesn't have to be hateful. I just think that more love for each other is the best route to take. And the acceptance is bigger than love a lot of times. So
I'm like, so the love for each other is, and empathy is important. So be spiteful and love yourself.
Be your inner rebel. Like, well, fuck you all. I'm going to love myself anyways. And actually I was just writing this. So April and I are writing a book, and I was actually saying something about this that is not directly from me. It may be from Emily Nagoski from Come As You Are, or somewhere, or maybe someone else. It's about body image though. And about this whole thing of like, you have to really fully love yourself before you can love someone else, is a huge ask. Like, it's a really big ask to be like, okay, I love every part of me, you know, like, and like you said, not overnight. It's not realistic, and definitely not overnight. And we may live our whole lives not liking certain parts of ourselves, but you know, how can we accept ourselves as we are in this moment, or as a whole, and maybe learn to love certain parts, or like certain parts or something. And
just accept where you're at and be okay with that.
Well, where you're at is where you're at, right? That's
Yeah.
now, right?
And like mindfulness is a big part of that, right? Not thinking about, oh, things will be better next year when, you know, when my hair is grown out or when I'm finished school or when I get that tattoo. It's like, I am just maybe not stoked with where I'm at right now, but I accept and I'm okay with being where I'm at. And that's, I think that's honestly the most helpful thing, at least for me.
Definitely. No, I 100% agree with that. And April and I are big preachers of mindfulness. Our listeners are like, stop talking about meditation. But,
oh no, sorry.
Yeah, no. Talk about it because it's really important. And just, you know, there's a difference between like we can accept where we're at right now. Like right now fucking sucks balls or just, it's just terrible, whatever. Sure I don't like it. Yeah, it does. Right. Maybe right now. Yeah. Like I don't like right now, but right now is happening. So I can fight it or I can work to shift right now, which some people would choose to disappear, disassociate, escape, you know, a more beneficial route. Sometimes you need to do that. So
or it's not even a decision you make. It just happens. Yeah.
And like, you know, and a more beneficial long-term route is to actually work on those pieces and those parts of ourselves. But I guess like what I'm hearing you say is the ultimate goal is not to like, just come into this point of like, I'm perfect. You know, and anyway, it's to find these tools and these ways to just accept you as you are, knowing that you're going to change every day anyways. Like where you are today is going to be different in a year anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm curious about the dating world because you said about disclosing your disability to future partners. I mean, this is even in the dating world where people are like, should I tell them that I have adult children? You know, I'm 45 and I have 2 kids who are in their 20s, but like, I mean, we're talking about disability. You know, is this something that you would put on your profile if you were on Tinder or Bumble, or do you wait to like the first date or and advice for people who might be experiencing something similar?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the first thing that's really important to know with that is that not everybody can wait until the first date, or not everybody, like some people have invisible disabilities. Some people have disabilities that are very visible, or they use mobility devices. So not everybody really has that option, or I guess it's in some ways a privilege to, like, for lack of a better word, hide their disability if they want to. Like, I don't have to, nobody needs to know that I have a disability if I don't want to walk around telling people, you know, it's hidden under my clothes. But not everybody has that option if they want it. So I think that's not something that I can really understand or relate to, but I do think it's important to mention when talking about, you know, whether or not you're going to disclose your disability, because some people just don't have a choice there. They have to disclose it because it's, you know, the first thing you see about them, or the first thing that some people might see if they encounter them or notice. But for me, yeah, I typically like to just put it out there. It helps me to weed out people who, I mean, in a way, it helps me weed out people who maybe wouldn't be accepting of who I am, which is great, weed them out. In another way, I think it actually helps me to find people who are really in line with what I want. Maybe I'll find someone else who also has an ostomy, or someone who has a different disability, or someone who, whatever else it might be that I'm sharing. I think that that's an opportunity to connect over something. And also that's part of my confidence. So for me, after surgery, being able to go to like an event or a party pre-pandemic, obviously. And when people ask, you know, who are you? What do you do for work? What's your life about? And I'm able to say, oh, I'm a sex worker with a disability. Like immediately I feel so confident and strong and good about myself having to say that, rather than trying to hide who I am, my disability, my work. Those are huge parts of my identity for me. And it doesn't feel good to hide that or lie about it. So yeah, for me, just coming right out of the gate with, this is who I am, this is what I do. That's part of, I think, what gives me confidence in my life today.
So in terms of your career, do you think that the roles you're offered are those different? The roles you take on, are those different? Did your career change in any sense before and after the surgery?
So before the surgery, I was primarily doing live streaming, so webcam modeling. And then post-surgery, I've sort of shifted away from that for a few reasons. Like my energy levels are different. And, I get really arthritic pain if I'm sitting for too long and that kind of fun stuff. But I don't work with a lot of large production companies. I would love to, but it has been difficult to find some production companies who will work with me. Like I found directors who would love to work with me, performers who would love to work with me, but actually finding a production company to work with has been challenging. And I think that is because of the disability and the nature of my disability, and their concerns about how that would come across to the people who consume that media. So that's a bummer, but it is something that but that is something, that is something that I'm, still working towards. And I really want to find companies that I can work with. And there are some really great ones. I just filmed like an edu porn for a company called Afterglow. And it's a solo video, but that is sort of a marriage of like sex education and explicit content.
Love it.
Yeah. So working with like smaller indie companies is definitely my jam. But for now, most of what I'm doing is just me and maybe another performer. Maybe someone helps film us, but generally all performers. I have my own lights, I have my own camera, I have my own microphone, and then I edit it myself. Earlier, you were talking about your amazing editor, and I was just thinking, like, I wish I had an editor or just someone to film it, someone to edit it, someone to market it. Like that's
a lot
all
of work.
me. It's all me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing all of it.
I do every portion of my work.
That's why, at the end we'll say, I find how people can work with you and support. But that's why you support, you support the performers, people.
Yeah.
We're not going to YouPorn and stealing their content there. We're going and supporting them because look, this person is doing all of this work on their own.
It's wild. You like the proverbial anyone will choose to be self-employed because they want to work less, and guarantee you will work so much more. You work 24 hours a day when you're self-employed. You just like, people don't think of that, but yeah. Oh yeah.
No, I find myself messaging people at like 8 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm like, I forgot that other people don't work on weekends.
Yeah.
Like I would do. And I edited our podcast for the first 4 years. Oh, by the way, today's our 5th year anniversary, by the way.
When we're recording this,
the day we're recording this, not the day it's released. So it's a week later, but it's our 5-year Shameless Sex release anniversary.
Wow. So special.
Yeah. Where I was, editing in GarageBand up until like less than a year ago. So anyone who's listening now, if you judge all our previous episodes, just know that I, like Alex, was working my ass off over there. And so was April in her own way in the social media world. And
in her own way.
Yeah. Well,
I have a full-time job that like takes up way too much of my time. So
how do you do that?
Yeah.
I thought that was like shots fired. Like,
no, I've always been the skipper, like which every captain needs a skipper or first mate. And Amy was always the captain. And I was comfortable with that at the beginning because I'm like, if you need a full-time person, I don't have enough hours in the day. And she's always been really accepting of that. And that's why we jive. But yes, it's when she said that wasn't a bad comment that she made, but in my own way, I did as much as I could. And now I am able to give a little bit more, but I still do have that full-time job. So, and
Amy, when we started,
it still does steer the ship. Yeah.
We didn't start to be a business though. It was a passion project. It was literally like, this sounds fun. Like April's going through a divorce. I'm going through heartache. It was never to be as big as it is. So, and this is such a cool thing because we love this. It's our favorite thing that we're doing, both of us. And we started with, I call myself a techner. Like I'm not like that. I'm tech savvy, but like April's actually a little more tech savvy.
I'm probably more tech savvy than she is. Yeah. And she was like, I want to learn this. I was like, I love
doing that. I love like watching the YouTube videos and how to edit a podcast and do all the stuff. And so, but it was never, perfect because I don't have like all of the equipment. And that's why we finally got an editor. And April was more, managing the social media aspect and I'm not trying to downplay her at all. We just have a really wonderful dynamic that works really well together. But
that's amazing.
Just want to give praise for the people who like we all, for the first 4 years, other than, we brought in our social media manager maybe 2 years in, but like we did everything and we still do so much. And you're doing everything over there. And I have a non-related question to this.
Yes, please.
This is not even on our question roster. I'm curious if when you said like certain companies might not want to work with you because they're worried about what people will think, or has anyone like tried to fetishize your disability, and what's that experience like?
Yeah, that's something that I have experienced. I mean, negative comments or trolls or people fetishizing you is something that happens on the internet, regardless of whether or not you're disabled. Any person is going to receive those kinds of comments if they're putting themselves out there in the internet. Often, even if they're not a sex worker, people are going to get all kinds of Instagram DMs or what have you. So it is something that I already was used to, being put in situations I'm uncomfortable or receiving messages that don't make me feel good. That's not new for me, but I have, had some people try to fetishize my disability. And for me, that's just not something that I'm interested in at all. Like the way that I see it is there's not enough representation of disabled people or really any diversity in mainstream porn. And the only time you do see someone who is disabled is when it is fetishized. So for me, what I really want is to see more representation that's not just a fetishization or like what is it called? What am I trying to say? Like the butt of a joke. I think that, disabled people with disabilities are often either the butt of the joke or fetishized. And it's like, it's not in line with what I'm trying to do here. If a person wants to fetishize themselves and that's what makes them feel good, power to them. Hell yeah. But it shouldn't be the only option for people. And currently that's sort of what it seems like, or what it has seemed like in mainstream pornography and even in just mainstream media in general, TV, movies, anything like that. It's very, I guess, it's very whitewashed. It's thin, white, cis women.
Symmetrical, everything.
Symmetrical everything.
Yeah.
Able-bodied, cisgendered, a lot of heterosexual, and even like homosexual content, like girl, boy, girl, or like transgendered performers, like that's so fetishized as well. And it's always like the butt of the joke or the focus. And it's not just like, oh yes, there's two people having sex and one of them's non-binary, or one of them has a disability, or one of them happens to be Black. And it's not the focus of the whole thing is like, oh my God, look, there's a Black person and a white person. And like, isn't this crazy? They're together. Like, who could imagine?
And then it gets its own category all of a sudden. Yeah,
exactly. And that just, I think, fetishizes things in a harmful way and just perpetuates a stigma and racism or ableism, etc. So yeah, it's not really in line with what I'm trying to do. But if you're a person who has a disability and you want to have it fetishized for money or otherwise, power to you.
I have a question as well, because I obviously work with a sex toy manufacturer and we strive to provide products for all bodies on the planet. And obviously that's really difficult. There are so many different folks out there. Do you find that with your body and what's available out there for sex toys, if you use them, because I don't know if you do you feel represented? And if not, I want to help you be fucking represented and folks that have similar things, because I'm just wondering about how we can just help more people have pleasure no matter what their experience is and what their, what their body, what their flesh and blood, what they have been given. And that's my goal too. So let me know. If you have one that you
definitely. Well, no, I mean, like I'm not shy at all talking about sex toys. I definitely used sex toys. I mean, the bottom, like my bed has 4 drawers under it. And like, I'm just dreading when my mom is going to come stay with me, because I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's like I get barrels full. I mean, there are so from 8 years of making digital content. Oh my God, I have so many. But with my disability, I don't think that there are, necessarily any barriers for me with sex toys, but I know that like in terms of having arthritis, or I have something called, I have fibromyalgia, and I have something called facet disease in my spine. So I'm losing the mobility in my spine, and it's just quite painful to exist or do anything. Those sex wedges, I think Liberator. Some of them. Yeah. Those
Mm-hmm.
are fabulous. I have one of those with a little slit in it that the Hitachi can go in, or different toys can go in. So that's great. And like the Liberator blanket as well for people.
Ooh, the Fascinator.
Yeah, the Fascinator.
I have two.
We all have,
Yeah.
Like
I had
everything,
one.
basically everything you're talking about, like we have those at our house too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you're familiar with someone named Andrew Gurza, who
he's been on our show. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Oh, I didn't hear that one or see that one, so I'm gonna have to listen. But yeah, I know that Andrew has I think it's called the Bump It. It's like a
I forgot he was making his own product.
Yeah,
right. It's probably out now. Yes.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
It's like a hands-free product where you can, I believe you can insert a toy into it or attach it, so it's accessible for people regardless of their mobility. It looks really, really cool, and so I would definitely urge people to check that out. And I would definitely suggest you check that out and see if you can do partnerships or anything, because that's very cool. And then also curved products like the Enjoy Pure Wand. That's ergonomic, so it's going to be a lot easier for people who have maybe mobility issues, or I don't know about you, but I've definitely been in a situation where my wrist starts to hurt if I'm like going to town for a little while. So
can I get something a little longer, please?
Exactly. Yeah. Someone actually sent me oh gosh, what is it called? I'll have to send you the name of it, but someone sent me a toy that's like that, but like way longer, like the thing is like this long, and then you attach the toy on the end. So you can, it's really interesting.
April and I, we go to all these sex toy conventions, so we see all these toys. I have not seen that one yet. And everything you name, I'm going to shout out to my mom, since you're like, I hope my mom doesn't open up my drawer. My mom and I saw sex toys together. We had a sex shop for 12 years.
Oh my gosh.
And that's how April got her start in the sex toy industry. And we sold the brick and mortar before the shelter in place thing happened. Thanks the
That's
sweet
amazing.
baby Jesus. And now we're just online at purepleasureshop.com, and you can get all these things: the Fascinator, the Liberator wedges, the magic wand, the Enjoy
wand,
pure wand, all of those things.
Oh my
Also
goodness.
the curve from Hot Octopus with a K is another nice curved toy at purepleasureshop.com with coupon code Shameless Sex. You get 15% off. Also, I'm so inclined to look into what Andrew Gurza,
Me too.
It's Gurza, right? He created, because I remember him saying that was like something in process. And I remember when we worked at Pure Pleasure in the brick and mortar store, we sold like a thigh harness. So it's a harness that goes on your thigh. You put a dildo on it, so that if you don't have the ability to move your hips, you could either fuck someone with your legs, or they could fuck your leg.
Yeah.
Or there's even spare parts at one point made a hand harness. There's chin harness. There's all these different things available, but it's really cool to see when companies or Andrew Gurza on his own mission, or like Hot Octopus, who actually does their research and wants to create, really study all bodies. And of course we can't cover all of them, but that's important because everyone's so different in how.
Yeah. I will say, quick note, I'm not totally sure, but I think Andrew Gurza might use they them pronouns, but maybe I'll double check, because I'm not sure if Andrew uses he, him, or they them. I feel like I recall seeing something about they them, or about using those pronouns, but maybe double check on that one.
Andrew Gurza, sorry about that, and we have been corrected, and I respect your they.
I could be
pronouns.
wrong. I could be wrong. So
all good. No,
Andrew's gonna be like, "What are you talking about, Alex?"
So one thing, since we're talking about Andrew Gurza and Andrew, when they were on our show, well, we're gonna have to edit that. Old habits die hard.
This is practice. No, this is good practice, because it's a good model for learning and respecting people's pronouns, even though we don't have the final answer, and that we're gonna fuck up, and all we can do is correct ourselves again.
Yes,
and just try again.
You can't be perfect. You just need to focus on accepting where you're at and doing your best. So.
I drank some cough syrup. Okay, I'm gonna blame that. Okay.
Yeah.
Or you're just not perfect, Chip. Okay.
I'm not perfect. So when they were on our show, they told us that because of the nature of some folks and their disabilities and their abilities to leave the house, and they recommended hiring a sex worker. And I thought that was a genius suggestion. And I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but I would love to talk about that aspect, even if you have no experience with hiring a sex worker that's out there. And I think it'd be great to just touch on that a little bit and even from Amy's perspective, but yours as well, Alex, if you have anything you want to share.
Oh yeah, I think that's fabulous advice. hiring a sex worker, there are also companies that I guess market the idea of, I'm not really sure how to describe it, but sex surrogacy, which some people say is the same as a sex worker escort. Others,
but there's like a training. There's like a training that they're undergoing that's different. Yes,
absolutely. I mean, a lot of sex workers who I know who are full service do work with many disabled clients, clients with disabilities, and I mean, they wouldn't necessarily work for a sex surrogacy company, but that is a focus of what they're doing a lot of the time is providing that like compassionate touch. And also a lot of sex work, full service or otherwise, is just talking to people, is just providing the human connection. A very small amount of sex work is often even sex, right? So I think that even just being able to hire someone to come and hold you or touch you, if that's something that you don't get in your day-to-day life because of a disability or otherwise, I think that's very valuable. It's just not always accessible because it's not always affordable.
Or in your area too, depending on where you live. Yeah. All of the above. There's the website, I think it's cuddlist.com, where you can hire people to just cuddle you. And like, that's all that it is. And people like, we need oxytocin, I can touch myself, but like my body will still crave to have, touch from some outside entity. And, I can snuggle my dog, but like, I still want April to hug me, and I still want to have sex with a partner or have a partner kiss my whole body or whatever, or just hold me. Actually, honestly, I just want to be held all the time. And I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with whether it's just been a long time, shelter in place, lack of access, where you live, finances, and also just sometimes it's hard for people to find partners. I mean, I've met plenty of people where that's a challenge, and they're not even people who identify as having a disability. I don't think we can legally here say where you can find sex workers. I think it's called pandering, but my partner's a criminal defense attorney, told me that. But surrogacy is either a legal or gray area where there is, and I don't know the exact website, but if you go online and look up sexual surrogacy, there is an official website for surrogacy.
I think there's Sensual Solutions is maybe one that's here in Canada, but I mean, I'm sure there's so many of them. They're available.
They're out there, and it's a really
I thought I
valuable
heard
service.
a Canadian accent.
I know, me too.
I love it. I love a Canadian. All of them. All of you in Canada listening, love you, each and every one of you. And I'm not even joking. I love you so much.
It's a little cold there sometimes, but we love you.
Drake, if you're listening, one of my favorite Canadians. I'm sorry. I love him.
Oh, and that
after
you, Alex. After you,
Alex first, Drake second. Oh, and then remember when we went to Vancouver and they put blankets on our laps? Oh, that was so sweet. It was so cool now. All right. Anyways, Alex, how can people find you, support your work, go and like all the things that you are offering or have offered in the past? How can they give you their precious dollars to support your work or work with you? What are the modalities that you offer? Yeah. What's on the table?
Well, people just have to walk outside and find a carrier pigeon and just turn around 3 times and send it up into the air.
Oh my God, that's the best. That's the best response we've ever had to that question.
Like, you can't. I'm not online at all. My website is just GoAskAlex.com, and you can find everything through there. But my OnlyFans, for those who want to see my spicier content, is onlyfans.com/GoAskAlex. That's GoAskAlex. I have to write it with my finger while I'm saying.
Yeah, I do that too.
And then on Twitter, Instagram, I'm GoAskAlex online, because somebody already has the handle GoAskAlex, and they haven't been active in many years, but I can't get the account. So
son of a monkey.
That's a great handle though. GoAskAlex. We talked about Jefferson Airplane, and you're like, GoAskAlex.
Well, and you know why earlier I thought it was Alice? Is before we were recording, there was, or maybe still is, a website called Ask Alice that was a sex ed thing that I used to look at when I was like 17 to ask sex ed questions. I don't know if it still exists, but I'm just realizing that's what my my brain did. So, but this is Alex, everyone whom we are talking to. So yes, you're awesome. And we'll have all the links in the show notes too. So you can go ahead and look in the notes and click from there.
Get your Canadian on. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on for a rip up to Canada.
Oh.
See some geese, go to Timmy's.
They have that coffee too. What is it called? It's at Timmy's. Is that Timmy's?
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Hortons.
Timmy
Hortons.
Hose. Yeah.
Timmy Hose. I've spent
Oh
a lot
my
of time
goodness.
together.
Actually, I have to tell you, a friend of mine gave me a bunch of her old lingerie because she's moving back to the UK, and I wash it and then I take it to the shelter where I volunteer. But there's this one costume. It's like a Tim Hortons slutty costume, and it just says on the brim of the hat, Timmy's Hoe. And and like I'm like, it's old and dirty and kind of like ratty. And I think that saying hoe is something that, you know, we're not doing so much anymore as well. So there's a lot of reasons why I don't want to wear it, but at the same time, I'm like, this is a masterpiece.
I think you could wear it.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
I think a hoe it could be a garden tool, and it's an effective garden tool as well.
Or it could be an empowered hoe. It'd be like, I'm a fucking hoe. And
yeah, people like Santa, he still says ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, well, that's true. Cancel Santa 2022. But no, I think it's more so to do with it being traditionally a word that was used by Black sex workers, if I am correctly remembering it. And so that's like the appropriation of it by white sex workers. And yeah, that's what I know about the word hoe, but we're learning every day.
Seriously, we're learning all the time. When we started this podcast, we were still saying female bodied and male bodied. And then we're like, oh, snappo. We say vulva owner and penis owner. And some people get frustrated.
I mean, I call my mom a dude all the time because I just don't relate dude to being a specific. I'm like, yo, dude, to my mom. To sometimes I call my dog a dude. Because
April's a 16-year-old frat boy, basically.
I am. I'm like, yo, dude. And I can't help myself. So I try not to. And I grew up saying you guys for everything. It was like, I'm from Wisconsin. So it's always you guys. And I sometimes I do it and I don't even, it's ingrained deep in there. And I by no means am ever trying to offend anyone. I want to have everyone feel comfortable and feel like they can be themselves. And I can hopefully, if I called you a hoe, I never did, but Timmy Hose, that's so cute to me for some reason.
And I will say also that while this is not like a Pride episode, this is coming out in Pride Month. So I just think that it's a good topic to just remind ourselves that while we might not be able to get it perfect, to be allies and supporters of other humans where they stand, is that we have room to, you know, fuck up. They let us know, you know, this is actually didn't work for me. This is how I want to be referred to or identify, or what's important to me. And then we try again, you know, we listen. And as some folks who are more privileged than others or have more able bodies than others, or, you know, all we can do is to really try to listen and have compassion and respect people for being who they are, because we're all different from each other. I had one other thing I wanted to ask you about. I think it was about hoes, but I don't remember. something about hoes. But anyways, okay. Again, remind us one more time your website again, and then it'll all be in the show notes. One more time. It's
GoAskAlex.com. And across all platforms, OnlyFans and elsewhere, I'm GoAskAlex, except for Twitter and Instagram, where I'm GoAskAlex online.
Thank you so
You are
much.
just a beautiful human inside and outside. And I am really fortunate that we had this time with you. And I know all of our listeners will appreciate it too. And that rhymed, not intentionally, but sometimes I come out with it. To all of our listeners out there, if you could just take a moment of your day, it takes probably less than 10 seconds. Go on iTunes and Spotify. You can now rate us on Spotify and give us 5 stars. That's what yes. We've got multiple listeners. So give us 5 stars because that helps people find folks out there doing incredible work like Alex. And it will also show us how much love you have for us, because we absolutely adore each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. And I know Amy's heart as well. So 5 stars, it's simple. And you can just leave us an emoji if you don't have enough bandwidth or time to give us a long raving review, but we appreciate all of those. Go check out Alex and all of her work. And from here, I have to say, farewell, fare thee well, or see you next Tuesday, because that's what I usually say when I'm not high on cough syrup. Okay. All right, y'all. We'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you for being part of the Shameless Sex Revolution. Ciao for now.